We have here a very special present. Normally, obviously, it's not that we receive many presents, but this one is kind of present for the committee. And that will be explained later on, but these are official documents from the Taliban, and then we have this box, United Against Gender Apartheid, a global call for justice, accountability, and the recognition of gender apartheid as a violation of international law. Shukriya Bahalazai. Here, justice must prevail. There can be no legitimacy without equality, no recognition without rights, and no normalization without justice. And finally, united against gender oppression, a woman or girl should be denied her rights, her voice, or her future because of her gender. So thank you very much, and we will keep it a treasure. I don't know, probably we needed to put it on the corner, otherwise I will not have a space for the agenda, but it is as it will be in the middle of our table. So thank you very much, as I was saying, to come to this hearing where we will explore through human rights and gender justice lens the legal, political, social, and cultural structures that restrict women's freedoms and perpetuate discrimination, as well as the consequences of state repression following movements and protests advocating for gender equality and women's rights. In the last few years, the European Parliament has repeatedly condemned the systematic violations of women's rights in Iran or Afghanistan, criticizing policies and practices that infringe upon women's rights and freedoms. In this context, after the death of Mahsa Amini and the emergence of the Women's Life Freedom movement, the Parliament constantly condemned the violent repression of protesters in Iran, called for accountability for human rights violations, and expressed its support for Iranian women, human rights defenders, and civil society activists. In 2023, the Parliament awarded the 2023 Sakharov Prize for Freedom of Thought to Mahsa Amini and the Iranian Women's Life and Freedom movement. Concerning Afghanistan, the European Parliament has repeatedly denounced the Taliban's systemic exclusion of women and girls from public life and has characterized these policies as constituting gender persecution and increasingly gender apartheid. Through a series of resolutions, Parliament has called for the international recognition of gender apartheid as a legal concept capable of addressing institutionalized system of gender-based oppression. Also, in our recommendation to the Council on the European Union priorities of the 17th session of the United Nations Commission of the Status of Women, the CSW, we emphasized the need to recognize gender apartheid as a crime against humanity under the Rome Statute and advocate for its international recognition in order to ensure access to justice, accountability, and the possibility of prosecution by international court. I think now that there is a Taliban delegation coming to the European Union, this hearing is very timely. And so we have 3 experts with us. One is online. And the order will be first Ms. Petra Meram, then it will be Ms. Shukriya Baraksai, and then Ms. Gino Victoria David. And I will be presenting each one of them. Remotely, and first to join us in this hearing is Ms. Petra Meram, Policy Advisor for the End of Gender Apartheid campaign. So thank you for being with us, even if remotely. And you have the floor for 7 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm honored to be here today. To be honest, this morning I faced a difficult dilemma.
Just 1 second, because we are listening to you quite low. So if that's okay now, yeah?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, now it's perfect. Thanks a lot. Sorry about that. Thanks.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I was saying that, to be honest, this morning I faced a difficult dilemma, whether I should come and speak here at all. Like millions of women in Afghanistan and women across the world, we have protesting for the past weeks against European Parliament decision to invite Taliban members to EU. I am in a state of shock and betrayal. How EU said no to constant resistance and protest against this decision. We all knew the nature of the Taliban regime. It is a regime of gender apartheid and gender persecution that has systematically erased women and girls from public life and have stripped them of every right. And European Parliament have rightly condemned these abuses to resolutions and statements. Yet Taliban representatives continue to be invited to European institutions and raises a difficult, to be honest, but necessary question of at what point does engagement risk becoming complicity? And I wanna ask and raise this question to everyone in this room of what is the measurement? And if it's not, the EU is not speaking to the Taliban. EU is in Afghanistan. EU has in European countries has its members in the technical groups of Doha format that continuously and regularly engage with the Taliban. So what is the need for them to come to EU? And do you know how much they use this for their propaganda, for empowering themselves? So I want to ask this question again, and that is, at what point does engagement in this series of engagement risk becoming complicity? Especially EU's in this level of gender persecution that Taliban are, and gender apartheid the Taliban are perpetrating inside Afghanistan. Because when perpetrators of gender apartheid are repeatedly given platforms at cost of voices of women of Afghanistan and people of Afghanistan, while they struggle to be heard, for me, the issue is no longer only one of diplomacy. It becomes an issue of moral and legal obligations and responsibility of EU and its members. So I stand here today again with that simple question, and now I will briefly speak about why we call and should call and recognize the situation of women of Afghanistan as of gender apartheid. To be honest, I want to start by asking people in the room or asking you guys to imagine what you did this morning. I'm sure you wake up, you got your coffee, you choose to what dress you want to wear. You even maybe didn't think that you need to take the train or walk to the EU Parliament, because you do. It's normal. It's every day. Maybe you shaked with a colleague of yours. He saw your face. You talked. We are talking. You heard each other's voices. Very simple, everyday things that you did today. A girl and a woman in Afghanistan cannot do it. It's criminalized and it's a crime. Those simple things of freedom of movement, going to work, having the right to speak, because we are so entitled to these things, and we should as human beings. But those are banned, controlled by Taliban in Afghanistan. And women of Afghanistan are stripped of those basic things that we don't think, that I'm walking to office, It's a right that Taliban can control. So everything, to put it in perspective, I wanted to tell you that everything you did today and I did today is banned and criminalized for women in Afghanistan, even their voices and faces. And that's what we call gender apartheid. And women of Afghanistan since 1996, first era of Taliban, have been calling for its recognition and codification. It's an institutionalized regime of systematic oppression and domination. And why we say systematic and institutionalized? We document the Taliban's decrees in legal systems through Afghanistan Justice Archive. They have issued more than 230 decrees so far that directly targets women and girls, including the PVPV law and their penal code that formalizes and legalizes the oppression against women and girls. In those laws, especially the penal code of the Taliban, and I quote an absurd article that says, if a husband beat the wife, as long as the bone is not broken and the skin bruise is not open to bleed, it's not a crime. And it officially authorized men as owner of the woman. And then we had the separation and divorce law that came last month, and it's legalized child marriage. So everything we see in Afghanistan, and it's not of a culture or religion, but it's laws and legal policies of the Taliban being enforced across. And the other thing that why we call it gender apartheid, in addition to the systematic and institutionalized nature of the oppression and the totalizing oppression of Taliban inside Afghanistan, is the intent. And by that, we are studying and seeing how implementation and perpetration of gender apartheid regime in Afghanistan is both pragmatically and ideologically existential for the Taliban. Even if schools are banned for women and girls, but those that are open for men, the curriculum is changed to brainwash boys and men. And we see how they are socially engineering the society in a way that be receptive of the Taliban regime, but also ensure its sustainability. So the Muhtasibin, the Minister of Vice and Virtue Morality Police, yes, they control women outside their houses, but we also see how legally men are pulled into enforcing those laws and decrees inside the house. By that I mean, if it says if a woman is not dressed based on Taliban's favor, yes, she will be subject to punishment. But also the man of the family, if it's the brother, the father, is also subject to punishment. So we see how they bring men into enforcement of these policies too. So there is nowhere that women can find peace and safety in Afghanistan, neither inside the house nor outside. So we see how everything in this totalizing system of oppression is forming a fully integrated and overarching framework that is necessary for the Taliban's sustainability. And that's why we say both the nature of it, which is systematic and institutionalized nature of the Taliban oppression, the animating context, and also the intention they're pursuing through this in Afghanistan, form a regime of apartheid, and that should be recognized as it is. And I wanna, because I have 7 minutes and I can address questions.
Indeed, you should be concluding us.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Wanna say that I'm sure everyone in the room, and we all know the level of the totalizing level of oppression in Afghanistan. Everything from gender apartheid to gender persecution to slavery to child marriage to forced marriage to caste system, everything is legalized and formalized in Afghanistan by the Taliban. The laws that we as a global community get together to criminalize it. So when history has shown us that when injustice reaches this level in front of the law and governance system, we should act as a global community. And that's what I expect EU to do that too. Thank you.
So thank you, but I would like to clarify something because I think it is important. When I was saying before that it is very timely, this hearing, because indeed there is a Taliban delegation visiting the European Union. It is not an invitation from the European Parliament. I would like to be very clear about that. Otherwise, it will be too hypocritical, but we'll have a lot of contradictions among ourselves, that is for sure, but it will be probably too much. So it is an invitation, but it is not even the Commission, it is the Commission, but following the initiative of 20 member states. They hold already a meeting at the beginning of this year in Kabul. So this is following, and this meeting, it is a follow-up or a specific initiative, a specific question or initiative taken in a letter, especially led by Belgium and Germany, and signed also by other countries as Austria, Italy, Netherlands, and Poland, asking the Commission to start this technical meetings with the Taliban regarding irregular migration. So just to make very clear that the European Parliament has not been involved. Obviously, we have voted several things regarding migration, but this is how democracy works. And unfortunately for me, in my case, that I did not, but this is how it works. But this is something I do as myself, not as a chair. I don't want to be misunderstood. But in any case, I wanted to make sure that there is no misunderstanding, and the Parliament, the European Parliament, has not invited any Taliban mission or delegation to Brussels. Quite the opposite. We are holding this hearing. So sorry, because I wanted to make clear that there is no the European Parliament involvement in that. And now I would like to give the floor to Ms. Shukriya Barakzai, founder and president of the Afghan Women's Coalition for Justice. She's an Afghan state woman, former parliamentarian and diplomat, and served as a member of the Holesi Jirga from 2005 to 2015, and as Afghanistan's ambassador to Norway from 2016 to 2019. Her contribution, we will hear her, will focus on the current situation of Afghan women, so thank you very much. So thank you very much also for that present that we will really treasure. The floor is yours for 7 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Madam Chair, Honourable Member of the European Parliament, distinguished guest. Thank you for this opportunity. Today we are not discussing the rights of women in one country alone. We are discussing a global challenge, the systematic oppression of women and girls simply because they are women. Across the world, women continue to pay the highest price of war, extremism, dictatorship, discrimination, and conflict. We see the suffering of women in Afghanistan under Taliban rule. We see Iranian and Kurdish women confronting discrimination laws and state repression. We see Palestinian women enduring the human. It's not really easy to represent, because at the meantime I'm also having the privilege to be the Vice President of World Liberty Congress, where more than 60 countries, dissidents, freedom fighters come together and build that Congress. And I have to be their voice too. We see Ukrainian women carrying the burden of conflict, displacement, family separation, violence, and the result from war. We see women and girls in a part of Africa facing conflict, forced marriages, sexual violence, trafficking, exclusion from education and public life. While the women are denied equality, dignity, opportunity, security, and freedom. Gender oppression is an accident. It is a system. And when that system is designed to exclude women from education, employment, political participation, public life, and fundamental freedom, we must have courage to call this as a true name. And the name is gender apartheid. Today, Iranian women continue to challenge the discriminatory laws, compulsory restrictions imposing on them. Kurdish women have to pay particularly highest price in their struggle for dignity, equality, and freedom. We remember the Gina Masa Amini, a young woman whose death become a global symbol of resistance against gender oppression. We remember many more women and girls who have lost their lives, been imposed and displaced and silenced simply because they are women. Their rights was been denied. But their struggle is not confined borders. It is universal struggle for justice and human dignity. Whether Kabul, Tehran, Gaza, Kiev, Khartoum, or elsewhere, women must never become the first victim of conflict, extremism, discrimination, or political oppression. I would like to present, as I did, the documents to European Parliament. They contain the Taliban own laws, decrees, regulations targeting women and girls, and I hope this document widely shared and presented as a part of historical record on the most systematic attack on women's rights in the modern history. But today, I also like to ask a question. It's a difficult question. I'm asking you, all respected member of European Parliament. This is not my first time. I had this stage since 2002. My last visit was 2024, when I was here in European Parliament, September, when we discussed the gender apartheid, and when this Parliament adopted an important resolution in supporting Afghan women and accountability. Almost 2 years later, what has changed? What concrete action have been followed those resolutions? What progress has been made towards recognizing gender apartheid under international law? And why are some governments, international actors, still normalizing their relation with the regimes and where they're systematically violating the rights of humans and rights of women? Why are dictators and extremists and the Taliban still being treated as a legitimate partner while millions of women remain deprived of their most basic right? Too often, religion, culture, tradition are being weaponized to justify discrimination, exclusion, and oppression. Human rights are universal. Women's rights are universal. No government should allow to hide behind culture or religion or deny women and their humanity. Today, I respectfully ask European Parliament and European Union and its member states to move beyond statement and expressing of concern. The words are important, but the words alone are no longer enough. We need measurable action. We need accountability. We need consequence of those responsible for gender oppression. We need protection for women, human rights defender, and political prisoner. And we need a clear commitment that Europe will not normalize relation with regime that institutionalize gender discrimination against women. The history will not judge us by resolution we adopt. The history will judge us by action we take. I thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you indeed. So why we keep pushing with this hearing, and because yes, what we I insist, it was a movement from member states. We are co-legislators, but it is not the European Parliament. So just to insist one more that we are so far on your side. So far, and I hope for a long time. So now I would like to give the floor to Ms. Regina Victoria Doabi, who is here with us. Thank you very much. Head of International Relations, HIWA. Ms. Doabi is international political analyst specializing in Iran and Kurdistan, and will focus on the current situation of Kurdish women. So thank you very much for being here with us, and you have the floor for 7 minutes too.
Thank you for having me. Chair, member of the European Parliament and the committee, thank you for having me. Today, I would like to talk about Kurdish women, because a Kurdish woman is never just a woman. She carries many identities at once. First, she's a woman, then she's Kurdish, and she belongs to a people whose language has been banned, whose identity has been denied, and whose existence has been criminalized. Kurdish women are targeted not only because they are women, but because they stand at the intersection of gender apartheid, ethnic and national discrimination, and political oppression. Just like Gina Modarres Gorji from Sna and Mahsa Zarai from Kermashan, who both are right now under massive pressure, not only because they are women, but because they insist on their Kurdish identity. In Rojhelat, eastern Kurdistan in Iran, discrimination and erasure of the Kurdish woman start at the birth for girls, where mothers struggle simply to register their children's names. Kurdish girls grow up without the right to be educated in their own mother tongue. As they grow older, barriers to higher education, employment, and participation in the society becomes increasingly stretched. Generation after generation, discrimination and oppression are institutionalized through the policies of Islamic Republic of Iran, and girls and women learn to role-play an identity imposed by this state. The same discriminatory system also enables child marriages, forced marriages, and femicide in Iran and Kurdistan. These are not isolated tragedies, but the consequences of laws, institutions, and patriarchal structure that have been enshrined for over 100 years, where violence against women is enabled through systemic discrimination and impunity. Women human rights defenders are arrested, tortured, and sentenced to death simply because they refuse to accept this brutality. Today, women such as the political prisoners Pakhshan Azizi, Burisha Muradi, and Zainab Jalalian have become the symbols of resistance against that oppression. Pakshan Azizi dedicated herself to humanitarian work supporting women and children displaced by ISIS in Rojava. Today, she faces death penalty in an Iranian prison. Wurisha Muradi and Zainab Jalalian believe that Kurdish women should participate equally in shaping society. Today, they both are imprisoned for that belief. Their stories reveal an important true reality. Authoritarian regimes do not fear Kurdish women only because they are women. They fear Kurdish women because they organize, because they educate, because they lead, because they prove that another political future is possible. But this is half of the story. If we speak about Kurdish women only as victims, then we fundamentally misunderstand who they are. During Jinjian Azadi, the Kurdish slogan Women, Life, Freedom movement, I spoke with a Kurdish woman, a leader, who had just been temporarily released from the prison in Iran. She told me how painful it was to watch world leaders celebrate courage of Iranian women while excluding women from ethnic and national minority communities from conversations about Iran's future, about their future. And her words have stayed with me. Kurdish women have too often expected to sacrifice for freedom, democracy, while being excluded from shaping it. But the ground reality is that Kurdish women are the key actors in making liberation, freedom, and democracy, not only in Kurdistan, in Iran, Syria, and Turkey, and Iraq, but an inspiration to all women of Middle East. It's also therefore no coincidence that the Kurdish slogan Jinjian Azadi, Women, Life, Freedom, was born in Kurdistan, emerged from generations of Kurdish women's resistance from a simply yet profound understanding. There can be no democracy without women's liberation. There can be no lasting peace or security without women's equal participation. And today, Kurdish women in Rojava continue to defend that idea. They are not only protecting themselves against military threats, they are protecting democratic institutions built on equal representation, co-leadership, and they remind us that peace negotiations cannot be legitimate if women are excluded and that democracy cannot exist if half of society is denied a seat at the decision-making table. For centuries, Jews, Christians, Yazidis, Muslims, and others have lived side by side with the Kurdish community. Diversity is nothing something we fear, it's something that we practice for generations. This is why Kurdish women's struggle has inspired far beyond Kurdistan, across borders, religions, across nationalities and ethnicities. Because Kurdish women have shown that women's rights are not separate from freedom and peace and security. In fact, they have shown us that women are key to exactly these. This is why this struggle also matters to Europe. If European Union truly believes in gender equality, if it truly believes in democracy, if it's truly committed to confronting gender apartheid wherever it exists, then Kurdish women cannot remain an afterthought. Because Kurdish women has shown the world what courage looks like. They have fought and defended for freedom while living under multiple dictatorships. They have fought and defended equality while confronting the exact gender apartheid. They have defended democracy while being denied their own fundamental rights. They have defeated ISIS and defended all of us. The question today is therefore not whether the Kurdish women will continue their struggle, they will. And the committee and the European Parliament have an important opportunity to stand with them in concrete actions. Therefore, I urge the committee and the European Parliament to take the following step. First, publicly demand for the immediate release of all political prisoners, including all Kurdish women such as Zainab Jalalian, Pakshan Azizi, and Wurisha Muradi. recognize the systemic targeting of Kurdish women and other minorities in Iran and Syria, including intensified repression in Iran following the recent war and the ongoing attacks on the democratic gains and political participations of women in Rojava as part of this intersection of gender apartheid, ethnic and national discrimination, and political repression. Ensure that Kurdish women are included in EU discussions on Iran's and Syria's future, not as symbolic participants, but as equal political and civil society actors. Increase the diplomatic pressure on Islamic Republic to end the use of death penalty against anyone, but especially women activists, political prisoners, and members of oppressed ethnic, religious, and national communities. Strengthen support for and include Kurdish women-led civil societies, organizations, documentation initiatives, education, and human rights advocacy, both from Kurdistan and in exile. Solidarity is important, but it's not enough. Right must be defended, voices must be heard, and Kurdish women must have a seat at the table. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and thank you for bringing this link that we think is essential of democracy and women's rights and feminism, and how it is probably there is no democracy with that. And thank you, the three of you, for pushing us to go beyond words, but this is what we are doing, trying also to push the authorities, and we will keep doing. And now it is the moment for the political groups, coordinators, or people acting as such, for 2 minutes and a half. So I will start by EPP. Mrs. Nerudova, she's also for the Iran delegation, so you have the floor for 2 minutes and a half.
Thank you. Madam Chair, dear Iranian and Kurdish women, today as we debate gender apartheid, the European Commission is sitting down with Taliban, here in Brussels with red carpet. A regime that bans girls from school, that just legalized marriage for 9-year-olds. A regime that UN itself calls as gender apartheid state. We do not negotiate with those who use women's bodies as a bargaining chip, not with the Taliban, not with the Tehran, not with anyone. The women of Iran have paid with their lives to be seen. Kurdish women face violence and erasure and look to us for solidarity. We cannot champion gender apartheid as a legal category in one room while legitimizing a gender apartheid regime in another. Me, as the member of this House, I call on the Commission, condition all further engagement with the Taliban, with Iran, on concrete progress on women's rights, no exceptions.
Thank you very much. And now from S&D, Cecilia Strada, the floor is yours for 2 minutes and a half.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will speak in Italian, if I may, if you want to put your headphones. Thank you very much, Spas Tashakor. Before joining the Parliament, I had the opportunity of... okay. Oh, sorry. Sorry. Because this Taliban thing is really driving me crazy, and so sorry about that, but I will speak in Italian now. Quindi, Tashakor. Sì, prima di...
So, before being an MP, I had the privilege to work for many years for an Italian organization in Afghanistan. So I worked with Afghan women, for Afghan women, and I think that the European Commission today is reaching one of the lowest levels it could reach, because not only they're meeting the Taliban, but they're talking to them talking about repatriation. So they're going to the Taliban asking for something. And what will the Taliban ask for in exchange? They'll be able to say, no, they can't say we're going to talk about human rights because we're giving the power to the Taliban's, because the commission is there asking for something and they're wanting something back. What? Money? Political legitimacy? Well, they're already giving them that. So I really think that this is shocking. I think Parliament must continue to do what we are doing. The MEPs here in this room fight for this, but we really have to do more. I would like to talk for the whole group. We're here, we're available for any type of recommendation to do what we can do together in order to oppose this thing. And I conclude by saying, I'd like to thank all the speakers who've reminded us that we shouldn't talk about women only as victims. The fact is that the Taliban and all the other regimes are afraid of women's power. They're afraid of women, and they're afraid of the little girls. They're afraid of women who study, of women who work, that they might become someone powerful. So it's our duty to help this power to increase, and I'm here available for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to the guests today. Your message has always been clear, and it is today. Europe should unambiguously denounce the regime of the Ayatollahs for a situation and we are here contributing to legitimizing them. Solidarity should be translated into action. We should be giving you support. But as you mentioned today, we can't do that as well as hosting the Taliban. And so I'd like to know how those states, such as the United States, who have had the courage to take a firmer stance against the Iranian regime, which is something that we've seen has been effective through protests. The Ayatollahs are ending the lives of many young people. We don't know the exact figures, but what is true is that it showed us just what resistance means and how difficult it is made by the Ayatollahs and this regime.
Gracias. I don't see anyone from ECR. From Renew, Raquel García Hermida van der Valle. The floor is yours for 2 minutes and a half.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to start with an apology. Mrs. Meran, Mrs. Barakzai and Mrs. Douari, I am sorry. I am sorry. On behalf of 450 million Europeans, I am sorry that this European Parliament has not succeeded in stopping this madness of this meeting of the Taliban in Brussels, in the center of our political and diplomatic power as European Union. I am sorry. We really, really have done our best. And I could keep repeating myself here eternally, but I think that I would like to use this podium to give a voice to those women and girls in Afghanistan who don't have the chance to speak up because their voice has been stolen from them. So I will read up a few messages. An Afghan woman wrote to me yesterday. After I shared a video supporting women in Afghanistan, the Taliban tracked down my location and left a threatening comment naming the country I currently live in. When European democracy engages with them, it grants them a sense of international legitimacy. The more they find acceptance on the global stage, the more emboldened they become, and the harsher the oppression for my sisters back in Afghanistan. A young Afghan girl asked us directly, can any member of parliament imagine telling their daughters that after 6th grade, there is no school for them? Will you feel safe in a country where child marriage is allowed by law, and silence to the question, do you want to marry him, means yes? And she ended with these words, Whoever negotiates with terrorists says something about themselves to the world. They show their real face. Finally, and I want to be very specific here, because this is a community too often forgotten, one message urged us to speak up specifically for Hazara women who face compounded persecution. And Hazara woman wrote, Hazari women are literally at risk of a pogrom. We have been abandoned by every single ally. The European Union must continue to serve the interests of these women. Give these women the platform they deserve, instead of talking to their Taliban oppressors. Because we Europeans cannot expect anyone to take us seriously when talking about human rights and about gender apartheid, while inviting the Taliban to drink tea with the European Commission here in Brussels. So again, sorry, and thank you for speaking clearly to us.
Thank you, Raquel. Now from the Greens, Melissa Camara.
Yes, I will speak in French.
I'd also like to begin by saying how sincerely sorry I am. I'm ashamed today, on behalf of the European Union, that there is this meeting, because there's this populist xenophobia that is leading the Commission to bring the Taliban delegation here. There's also a drive within Parliament. We haven't met the Taliban, but I was a negotiator on the return regulation, a shameful regulation, and an unimaginable one. And there was Article 37 that showed the collaboration between unrecognized entities. I call that the Taliban article. And it allows for a dialogue and collaboration with the Taliban to send illegal immigrants back. Today, with this xenophobic drive, we've lost our values completely, and I'm absolutely sorry. And as a feminist, I'm sorry. And I think, as you said at the beginning, we're not just talking about Afghan women here. No woman will be free until all women are. And this is important to remember. We'll continue to fight. And I remember you said you were here in September 2024, Ms. Barzai. And one of the things that you said on numerous times was, please don't normalize relations with the Taliban. Please don't do it, because if you do, you condemn us all. And this is what we're doing today. And I am deeply sorry. I don't know what to say to you today. Seeing as we're all here, maybe I could ask how the progressives in the Parliament can continue to work with you to finally have this international recognition of gender apartheid. How can we carry on our work towards this victory for you and for all women who are victims of the most unimaginable patriarchy in Afghanistan and around the world? Thank you.
Merci, Melissa. And now, Irene Montero, you have the floor for 2.5 minutes from the left.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to speak in English, in Spanish, sorry, as you. Bueno, muchas gracias.
Thank you very much to the speakers for the testimonies that you've shared with us today. I think that your voice shows us a very visible reality, and that's millions of women around the world who are putting their lives at risk for their rights and for the rights of all. The question is something that many people don't know, but as we're talking about it, there is a delegation of the European Commission that is meeting with the Taliban, the same Taliban that the UN has denounced for gender apartheid, that prohibits women from going to university, from going out and walking around alone without the company of a man. If a man hits a woman, it's not a crime as long as he doesn't break her bones. And they're meeting with the Taliban to negotiate deportations, to send back the people who are fleeing this regime. And so what's happening to women's rights now in Afghanistan? What about it? Do they no longer matter? And I think it's important that we not only apologize, but that we assume our responsibilities. This isn't a mistake. The parliamentary groups here give the support to the European Commission. It's meeting with the Taliban. Last week, the majority of this House applauded a delegation from the Arab Emirates, and they are neither do they show great respect for human rights. How can Europe not be ashamed? Because this is absolutely criminal hypocrisy, and we need to assume our responsibilities too in this House. It's worse than hypocrisy, it's complicity. And the same is happening with women in Iran. Because how many times have we heard very seriously that there are going to be sanctions, Europe puts sanctions on Iran for human rights, for women's freedom, bombing Iran for women's freedom, as the Patriots said. And now Europe is going to lift sanctions on Iran, not because women are in a better situation, but because they need to open the Strait of Hormuz. And because Iran doesn't have the nuclear bomb that France and the United States do have. Israel has been for decades illegally occupying and settling, and they're getting the support of the United States. I think everybody can see this for what it is. For Europe, it's the same. They don't care about the rights of Palestinians, of Kurdish people, of those from Lebanon, Somali, Sudan. Women's rights are only important to them when they put a polish on their walls and their business, and this is absolutely shameful.
Gracias. ESN, Ms. Borzov, please.
Ja, ich möchte bitte auf Deutsch.
Yes, I'm going to speak in German. I'd like to thank the speakers. I'm somewhat surprised here because the fate of Afghan women is very different to the fate of Kurdish women. And if Kurdish women are seen as being the most progressive and the ones with the most equal in countries in the Middle East, then it's very different to the Afghan women. So it looks like two things have been quite mixed up here. And then it's that the Taliban are afraid of the women. No, it's because of their religion that they're being dealt with that way. And their religion is being interpreted in the most brutal way. And my question here is then about the Kurdish people. And that would then be a question for the Kurdish speaker. Is there an explanation why the number of Christians in Kurdistan has dropped drastically in recent years? Only 10% of women are Christian. There had been 1.5 million Christian Kurds in the past, and now it's about 150,000. Is there an explanation for that? And then there's a question as well about Kurdistan. Is that something that could help women there in those countries where Kurdish women don't have as much equality? Thank you.
Oh, danke. And now there are a few more words, not many, so I will give the floor to the other members that want to take the floor, and later on I will go back to you and give the floor back. You can probably answer. So Rosa Staras from EPP, please, the floor is yours. 1 minute or 1 minute and a half.
Sí, muchas gracias.
Yes. Thank you very much to all participants. Thank you for explaining the tragedy that is being experienced in Afghanistan and Iran since the illegal seizure by the Taliban in 2021. Women and girls have been subject to systematic persecution with the 250 decrees that has deprived them of education, of basic human rights, of healthcare, participation in public life. The legal provisions have got worse. Women are being criminalised when they're seeking support and shelter from their abusers. We're even seeing cases of slavery. I am asking now for the resolution to be applied forcefully. We have a very broad majority. We know what we need to do. We need to vigorously condemn the Taliban regime. This code needs to enter into force urgently. We can't negotiate anything with this regime that is against women's rights, that is in face of forced marriage and many other atrocities. We must impose all correction that imposes all restrictions on human rights. Everything we've built to do with our European values is being undermined here. And so we need to fight, we will fight, to ensure that in no way can this regime be normalized. It's a regime that runs against all human rights. Not only that, Cuba, Iran, Afghanistan, and many other regimes too. We need to be on the right side of history in all ways, and also always against anyone who attacks human rights.
Grazie Presidente.
Thank you. I'd also like to join our colleagues with our apologies, because I'm really ashamed now of being part of this institution. However, I believe we need to be proactive. So I suggest that this committee adopt a formal declaration, a formal protest, demanding an urgent audition at the Commission so they can explain how this invitation is compatible with the commitment of the EU itself in the protection of women's rights in general, and more specifically Afghan, Kurdish and Iranian women. Thank you.
Now there are no more requests except mine. But as a socialist and democrat parliamentarian, so in order to divide myself, I will speak in Spanish. That is my mother tongue. I'm going to be very quick. A mí me gustaría.
I would also like to join with my colleagues who have expressed how sincerely sorry they are, because it's absolutely shameful what's happening. I would also like to ask for coherence between political groups, because I'd like to remind you what I said before, that you're here because there was a petition that we saw over a year ago to ask for this to be entered into negotiations. And so there is pressure that we need to apply in our member states to ensure that the Commission can't be impeded. Of course, this is not the case of Spain. The Spanish government is not one of the countries that has promoted this meeting. And as such, I am slightly less ashamed, but of course, as an MEP, I am still ashamed. I would like to support the proposal that our colleague Carolina Marache has just made for a formal resolution and a meeting with the Commission to at least, as Parliament, again, I'd like to point out that Parliament did vote last week on returns with member states, and this does include Afghanistan, with the risk that Afghan women face, and these are Afghan women who are seeking refuge in Europe, also Kurdish and Iranian women. As such, I support Carolina Morache's proposal, and I think we need to demand coherence in order to really uphold your voice, as Melissa said, the voice as well of those who cannot be heard, to ensure that the international community can hear these voices.
Stop myself as a MEP and go back as chair and give you the floor in the same order we started before. So I would like to give the floor to Ms. Metra Meram for 2 minutes, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Honorable Galvez. I just wanted to say thank you for clarification on EU's position, and it's reassuring to hear all honorable Parliament members standing in solidarity with us. Just briefly, I want to go back to the Honorable Bosdorf, apologies if I'm not pronouncing your name right, from Germany. I think that's not a good justification, religion or culture. At the Afghanistan Justice Archive, I am monitoring and documenting Taliban decrees, and none of them in any way women supported, but that's why we are asking for codification of gender apartheid or using all international law where the religion and culture shouldn't be an excuse for persecution of women and girls. And that's why recognizing and codifying and making it law is important. When something is crimes against humanity, then that's where religion cannot be used as an excuse, and that's why we are pursuing all accountability pathways to make sure that not be an excuse used by the Taliban and international community. And I would really like you to push the German government to give us clarification on where the ICJ case is. They announced, but we see that they are not standing by their commitment to the women of Afghanistan on taking forward the case while accepting Taliban terrorists, diplomats to Germany. That's where I would like to see your solidarity, but please do not excuse religion or culture for allowing gender persecution and oppression of women and girls in Afghanistan or anywhere else in the world. So I want to conclude by saying that I urge European parliaments first and foremost to take a principled right-based approach to Afghanistan by supporting the ongoing efforts to codify gender apartheid in the proposed Crimes Against Humanity Treaty, and also exploring avenues within EU law and policy to recognize and address systems of institutionalized gender oppression. Second, ensure that accountability remains central to all engagements with Afghanistan, including by increasing political and financial support for the independent investigative mechanism for Afghanistan and other international accountability initiatives. Third, stand firmly with women of Afghanistan, human rights defenders, journalists, and refugees through expanded resettlement pathways, a strong commitment to the principles of non-refoulement and sustained protection for those at risk. And lastly, increase direct, flexible, and long-term funding to independent Afghanistan civil society organizations inside the country, particularly those led and managed by women, so they can continue their vital work documenting abuses, for providing services, and also maintaining and sustaining the civil space. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much also for these very concrete proposals. And now I would like to give the floor back now. I think I will learn to pronounce much better the name. Ms. Shukriya Baraksai.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Fantastic. First of all, thank you so much for your unity and solidarity with Afghan women. But allow me to be clear. Every invitation extended to the Taliban, every photograph, every meeting without accountability is a betrayal of millions of Afghan women, girls, who have lost their rights, their dreams, and their future. Their future. Taliban is not today. Think and imagine, in the past 5 years, 0 Afghan girls was been graduated from school? No, this is not today. They took as our dream and our future. And this is not diplomacy. This is normalizing gender apartheid, what European Union is doing. The international community must decide, will they stand with the victim or those who oppress them? Afghan women do not need sympathy. They need action, justice, and solidarity. And I really thank you for your understanding. But allow me to also use my brain as a lawmaker, despite of being an ambassador and lots more. And today I am just an activist. I feel proud. European Union is not a body, which is, I could say, they are from sky. They're also part of that system. You have the power. Please use your power, impeach them, and hold them accountable. We have to end that culture and normalization. When it comes to Afghan refugees, is that the first time you're hosting refugees? But why they are going to normalize their relationship? They are not giving the same stage, the same protocol, the same tension to women for freedom, for human rights. According to international law, we are not talking about one individual country. They are member states. And my message is for your state as well. Please do not normalize your relationship with terrorist group. These are the ones that once upon a time, not too far, 6 years back, your soldiers fight with them. At least for the sake of their memory, for their dignity, do not put red carpet. Do not provide them, let's say, a very first-class business ticket, and do not receive them as a guest. Let's the voice of freedom fighter to be a future maker. Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, members.
Thank you, thank you, thank you very much. I can be, yeah. Sometimes I cannot do what I want to do, being a chair, because it's more institutional, but yeah, that really, and also the previous speaker touched me, and I'm sure you will touch me as well, so the floor is yours.
Thank you. For the question regarding the religion, listen, Kurdish community and Kurdish people are diverse. We have, as I said, Christians, Jews, Yazidis, Shia Muslims, Sunni Muslim, non-religious people as myself. Well, I believe in the stars and the moon, but that's a whole other story. We have lived side by side for thousands of years, and the religion came and they went and they stayed. What ended us as people was power, terrorist groups, was invaders, was colonizers, and ideologies. It can be religious ideologies and it can be political ideologies. It can be fascism, it can be racism, it can be anything. But we have respect and we still live side by side in those areas where there's peace. For instance, Christians in Rojava were the safest because it was Kurdish ruled. And actually, it's not right that it decreased. It was increased Christians because some converted to Christianity. But please, let's not talk about culture and religious. It's about their fundamental rights. And for your other question about whether Kurdistan could help women's right. First of all, that's up to the Kurdish people to decide for a Kurdistan. Second, but let me tell me about our culture and our understanding that is really deeply rooted and in both our culture, but also politically. You know, you can't be Kurdish and not politically. Like, it's just within us. There cannot be a Kurdistan without women's liberation, and there can be no struggle fought without their participation, women's participation. So it's not up to me, it's up to the Kurdish people to decide for themselves, but now you know our culture, how that is. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you very much. What could I say? So thank you to all of you as well for supporting Afghan, Kurdistan, Iranian women, and all women that are really suffering, that they have their present and their future. You were very right, their future completely stolen And yeah, there will be no democracy without women's rights, and we will know women's liberation if we are not all free. So let's keep pushing not only words, but also keeping the Commission and member states accountable and asking them not to normalize the relationship with a regime that it is not legally recognized as such, but that is denying everything that we say they are our core values. So really stick to our core values in all situations, including today. So thank you very much for bringing these testimonies here, for bringing the voices of the women and girls that cannot even sometimes show their faces, not even speak. So thank you very much. Also for the interpreters, I have to apologize because first it was a slowdown and I haven't seen it. Sorry, it was when Irene was talking. You were talking too fast anyway. And sorry about that. And thank you very much. And apologize for me. So just a couple of minutes and we will continue with the next. Oh, sorry about that, but the next point, I did not know we have to wait until 17:45 because the Commission will come for the pay transparency. So we cannot start without them. So we continue with the pay transparency point 17:45. Sorry about that.